Okay, so today is December 23rd. It's 9 o'clock in the morning, China time. I wanted to get something out there for all you guys that are paying attention. First thing I wanted to do is touch on, I have this in the way, let me move that out of the way. First thing I wanted to touch on was to recap what we were talking about before, and I wanted to point out to you that I had suggested to you that there's a possibility that this little wave action right here on this chart represents a wave 4. If you recall, last time I was telling you that I had originally been working on the presumption that wave 4 ended right here. But this sharp rise here led me to believe that I was probably wrong and that wave 4 was going to end over here somewhere. Well, it looks like that's probably what's going to happen. I'm sure you guys remember I've been telling you that there was an EP of note on December 24th, which is now a day away, and it looks like one of the calls by one of the members of our group was correct when he suggested that the December 24th EP might in fact be a high, and it looks like probably that's going to happen. In which case, I would think that probably wave 4 is about to end and wave 5 down is probably going to begin probably within the next 24 hours. I wanted to show you something else here while I'm here that's kind of interesting. You know, you guys are aware of the fact, aren't you, that in this broader picture here, let me hide some of this here. Let me hide that. In the broader picture, we know that a wave 2, if this is a wave 1 ending up here, then wave 2, according to Elliott wave theory, can retrace all of wave 1, right? Those of you that know Elliott wave know that. Well, in this case, wave 1 started at 0. So from an Elliott perspective, it's possible, even as hard as it is for us to believe, it's possible that Bitcoin could go to 0 or almost to 0. Without breaking any Elliott rules. Now, I know that's difficult to believe, but it's possible is my point. The other thing I wanted to point out to you is that, and this was pointed out actually by Russ Ulbricht in a blog post that he posted last week when he was, while in prison doing an Elliott wave count of Bitcoin. He pointed out that it's more normal and more typical for wave 2s to end at wave 4 of a previous wave, which in this case will be all the way down to between 175 and 1200. Well, even that seems hard to believe and hard to fathom, am I correct? But I wanted to point out something that I was fooling around with the other day, and something jumped out at me. You see these two blue boxes here in front of us. Well, I'll start with this big one here. Now we know that up here the price of Bitcoin was just under 20,000. Depending upon which exchange you were trading on, it got like 19.8 or 19.7. Well, if I draw this long rectangle here, and such that this diagonal, using the Pythagorean theorem, equals the same height as the price here. In other words, if I draw this rectangle such that this diagonal is 19,700 long, in order to do that, I have to end up with a triangle that, a rectangle that ends on about February 22nd, and with a price way down here of around $200, give or take. Well, I thought that's interesting. I know that February 22nd is an EP of note, but I thought, that's interesting, but doesn't prove anything. It's just interesting. But then, you know what, once I realized that, I got curious, and I thought, I wonder if I do the same thing for this high, which was a wave B according to my count, which hit around 14,000. I thought, what kind of a rectangle would I have to draw to make this diagonal also equal to the price on June 26th? And it turns out that the same point on February 22nd, around $200, would create a rectangle such, or a diagonal such, that this is about 14,000 long and this one's about 20,000 long, and they both hit on the same day at about the same price. Now, I'm sorry, but I gotta say, that's spooky. It doesn't prove anything, but it's darn spooky if you ask me. And I pointed that out to members of the geometric thinking community the other day. Having done that, I noticed something else. Let me blow this up a little bit so you can see something here. And that is that the middle of this rectangle, right here, happens to come at a point in time, almost the price also, of being almost exactly where that big bounce happened in last October 22nd. Anyways, doesn't prove anything, but it does go to reinforce the possibility, hard as it might be for us to believe sitting here right now, it goes to the possibility that Bitcoin's going to plummet to unfathomable levels in the next couple of months. Now, am I certain that's going to happen? No, far from it. But I think it would be foolish not to consider the possibility that that's what's going to happen. And I'm going to go on record and say something else, and that is that I don't necessarily think that would be a bad thing. You know, I'm the man who wrote Bitcoin is a Red Pill of Freedom back 3 or 4 years ago. Some of you, I'm sure, have read it. I love the cryptocurrencies. But the one thing that I hate about the cryptocurrencies is that we have such a small number of whales owning so many of the world's coins. It's simply not a recipe for freedom, quite frankly. I mean, let me ask you a question. What's the difference between the Federal... 8 families own the Federal Reserve and almost every central bank on the planet. 8 families. They control the wealth of the entire planet. Am I right? Now, you and I know that, and we know that it's horrendously unfair, and one of the reasons I got excited about cryptos a long time ago was thinking that here is a way for the world to be free of these tyrannical, ruthless people that own the world's money. Well, then I think about it, how is Bitcoin much better when you got 20 or 30 different whales that own 80% of the world's coins? It's exactly the same thing. So, you know, if in fact, and I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if in fact price is going to drop all the way down to here within just a couple of months, then that would suggest to me a good probability and possibility that some of those whales are going to finally break and start dumping their coins. And I don't know what would cause them to do that. Maybe the perception that quantum computing has broken the currency. I'm not sure. But if they dump, and if we end up in a situation like this could be good for us long term, because if those whales were to dump their holdings and a bunch of normal mom and pop kind of people, Joe Sixpack, bought all those coins for $200 a piece, I think the world would be a better place. Now, anyway, I think I've made it pretty clear I don't know that this is going to happen, but guys, you got to tell me that's pretty damn coincidental, isn't it? It is. Anyways, time will tell. We're only a couple of months from knowing whether or not this is true or whether or not this is just, intellectual masturbation. God knows, we'll certainly know ourselves soon. Anyways, with that, I want to wish everybody a happy Christmas, and I'll probably see you later in the year before the 1st. Talk to you later. Bye now.